It is really such a pleasure to have Julia Choate here. In the longer version of that presentation that I give, about half of my slides belong to Julia. And if you've ever heard me give a presentation like this before, I put her references and her name all over it, and I say, this place is the best place in the world. Their program is doing what we all need to be doing. They are a role model program. I tell people that all the time, and I can't believe that she was kind enough to make her way from Australia to talk to us about her work. It is absolutely spectacular. The way that they infuse professional skills throughout the program. And their students are getting great work from this. So Julia came from Monash University from Australia. She's an education-focused senior lecturer there, and after getting her PhD, she got a graduate certificate in higher ed.
No, I don't want the talk.
Has won numerous teaching awards. She's extremely active in her national higher ed infrastructure and committee work. She's also the chair of the Physiology Education Committee and the director of the undergraduate program there since 2013. She led and developed this program that she's about to talk to you about professional development in a physiology major, a very comprehensive program. And she also has research interest in these kinds of stuff we're talking about. Like, this is her specialty, meat and potatoes, right? Research interest in career intentions, employability, development of research skills, as well as some interest in blended learning. And honestly, my favorite part of her work is on student well-being too, student mindset, student well-being, and how that sort of interplay takes place with education. With that, I think she's almost set up and ready to go, and it is a pleasure again to welcome you.
Thank you very much, Erica. I'd like to thank you for inviting me. I was very excited last year when the email came around about the PMG, is it PMIG? The super group last year. And I said to Erica, I'd love to come, but it's right in the middle of, marking exams, and could she stream it to me, and I could watch it, live, sitting at home at night, 17 hours ahead. But that didn't work. So when it came around this year, I was determined that I was going to come. So she's invited me along, and I thought, I will go if I get faculty support. When I say faculty, our faculty is our school. So I got support from my dean to come over here, so I had no excuse not to come over for this meeting. But I'm very excited to be in a room full of physiology educators. I think Erica has been a bit too positive about my talk. I feel like I need to provide you with all the answers, and I can't provide you with all the answers. So John is going to slide right and pull up. I've got a Kahoot. I thought it'd be really nice to wake all of you up. I don't know how easy it is to get onto the internet in here, but if you could pull out your phones, your laptops, it's a very quick Kahoot. And they normally have, so you just need to go to kahoot.it, and once John swipes right, I'm glad you're doing this and not me, John. Okay, can we full screen it or? Okay, so it's kahoot.it, and you just need to put that PIN number in, a yes, and someone's already, Jim is on there, I see. You need to provide a name, and it's got to be ethically sound, or you'll get rejected. Is there any sound on this?
No, there's no sound.
Oh, drat, because the Kahoot sound is, has everyone used Kahoots? I love it. I dance around the room. Actually, you're going to stay there, John. You can move the questions. So how many have we got in the room? 5, 10, 15, 20? If you haven't used Kahoot, it's really good for team-based quizzes in classes, and the kids love it. So my first question is essentially based on a conversation last night. Mary Pat, after a beer, said, okay, in 3 years' time, next year the super meeting is going to be in Minneapolis, the year after in Oregon. 3 years' time, we're going to have it at Monash University in Australia. Okay? I think we should start. Is anyone still struggling? Okay. Anyone else still? Okay, let's start. So the first question, because we're going to have this meeting at Monash in 3 years' time, In which city in Australia is Monash University? Okay.
Once you click in, you're in, you can't change it.
You can't change it. And I'm really disappointed there's a 20-second, you've only got 20 seconds to answer the question. Did I tell you? Yeah. Right. Oh, that's pretty good, actually, you're being honest. It's in Melbourne, which is down the bottom of the east side of Australia in the state of Victoria. Now, the next things are not questions, they're statements. And normally you'd have a 5-point Likert scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. We're not going neutral here, so you have to take sides. No sitting on the fence. So do your students worry about getting a job when they graduate? Mine certainly do. How many of us were there? Okay. Okay. So again, mainly on the side of agree and strongly agree. Yes, so my students are certainly quite anxious when we survey them about actually getting a job when they graduate. Thanks, John. And I think this careers anxiety is going to be affecting their well-being. We've been doing a lot of work on student well-being lately, particularly in relation to careers. No collaborating? This is your response? Okay, again, thankfully, we're on the side of agree and strongly agree. Next question. Okay, do you have I'd like to know about you, do you have a dedicated student career support service at your university? Many universities at home don't. Or advisors, you call them here. Again, good. Most of your universities, some don't, yeah, but most of you do have a career support service. The next statement. Okay. Do you think the students think that academics should be interested in their future careers? Should we care about what they're going to do when they finish? Oh, faculty. Sorry, everyone. We call them academics at home. The faculty's the school. Okay, excellent. The next one I think is just a slightly... Okay. Should academics be interested in their students' professional development? Do you think it's something that should come in... Oh, should faculty, be interested in their students' careers development or professional development? Okay, I was expecting this to be a bit more spread out. So again, that's good. You're all on my side. Excellent. I think this is the last question. Okay, do you think it should be part of the curriculum? Or of the physiology curriculum, if we're more specific? Okay, slightly more spread out, and this is what I see. Many faculty feel that they're not there to educate their students about future careers. They're there to educate them about physiology. Okay, that's the end of our Kahoot, and hopefully John's going to pull up my talk now. Yep. It's so nice to have technical support. Oh, excellent. Thank you very much, Claudia. Okay. The pointer doesn't work. Okay, so Eric has talked about this. Do we know where our students go when they finish their physiology major? What do they actually go and do? Do they go and get a job? Do they go and do medicine? So this is the big question. We have surveyed our students. So I should stress, students that do a physiology major within the Bachelor of Science at my university, they don't actually start physiology till the second year of their 3-year Bachelor of Science degree. Okay, and I actually quite like that. They come in first year, they do a general science training, they do biology, chemistry, physics, maths, statistics, they do some arts electives and things like that. And then they come into second year and they can take physiology. We currently have in our core semester 1, year 2 physiology subject, or what you would call a course, about 700 students this year. So we have a lot of physiology students. So I've been running career surveys since 2016 for our physiology students, just to see what they think they're going to do when they finish and graduate with their physiology major. So you can see in 2016, our core first physiology unit, PHY 2011, shown in blue. We got a great response rate. It was completely voluntary. There was no credit associated with it because we can't do that. In blue, you can see 15% said they were going to get a full-time job. We have an honours year, which is a research year. So they spend 6 months in a lab and do a research project, write a thesis. And that then leads on into the PhD program. So about 5% said research. Another 5% said they would go on and do honours and then do a PhD. So they were, thinking of going on into research. The old grad med. Now, we had about 25% say they were going to go on into medicine. So we don't have as big an issue with our science physiology students. Allied health was popular, just under 10%. Unfortunately, teaching is never popular. I really try and encourage our students to go into, we have a master's in secondary teaching or an Mtec, but no one seems to want to do teaching, even though there are actually jobs out there in secondary teaching. Other graduate courses included other allied health areas. So there's veterinary sciences, dentistry, reproductive sciences and IVF. Other undergraduate schools, undecided. I was really pleased about this. First time I ran a career intention survey, I forgot to put on the undecided option. I think it's actually really important to get the message through to the students that it doesn't matter if they don't know what they want to do. I certainly had no idea of what I wanted to do. Even when I got to the end of my third year, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just fell into an honours year and continued on into research. Now, the important thing is we surveyed the same students. I can't guarantee they're exactly the same students. So PHY 3072 in 2017, this is actually exercise physiology, and 2011 is a prerequisite. So all the students coming into 3072 have to have done 2011. And I was pleased to see by the time, and this was a final semester subject, so by the time they got to their final semester in third year, the physiology major students, you can see there were some changes. More of them said they were going to go and get full-time jobs. You can see that's gone up 21%. More of them said they were going to do honours. Yay, come on. And they find our third year physiology subjects are intensive research focused. So we tend to lure honours students from our third year physiology. Fewer of them said they were going to do med. They've probably realised their marks are not high enough. More were heading into allied health. Fewer of them were undecided, so I'm very happy about that. So this is just a snapshot of where our science physiology major students are going. But let's come to our professional development program. So this relates to the Bachelor of Biomedical Sciences. It's a different degree program. I'm what you would call a program convener in biomedical sciences. They don't get a major in biomedical sciences. Their major is biomedical sciences, but within this program, they do physiology and they do the equivalent of a science physiology major. They do anatomy and developmental biology. They do biochemistry. They do pharmacology. They do immunology. And who have I forgotten? Biochemistry. Okay? So this is what led to, this whole diagram summarises what led to me producing and developing and embedding a professional development program into the biomedical program. So you can see back in 2013, we had about 200 first-year biomedical science students. We always survey the students. We have what we call entry and exit surveys. So on entry, we survey them. We get the demographics. We get, why did you decide to take this program? What do you think you're going to do when you graduate? You can see back in 2013, 20% of them said they wanted to do research, and we had 50% of them saying they wanted to do medicine. And then what my university did, and I had no control over this, they introduced a direct pathway for our biomedical science graduates at Monash into our Monash graduate medical program. So they set aside 50 places of the 75 in that program just for our Monash biomedical science graduates. And I was really worried. I thought, this is just alarm bells ringing off. This is going to cause huge problems. Because back in 2013, I was already seeing, as with Erica, students in tears in my office because they were so sure they were going to do medicine and they had not thought about other careers options. So if you look at the red arrow, they introduced this pathway in 2014. At the same time, they upped the enrolments in our program because they wanted to bring in more money, and they knew the program would be more attractive because the students knew that they had a higher chance of getting into medicine at Monash than other universities in Australia, because we would only take our Monash graduates. So you can see we've got 550 first-year students in 2015. Only 5% said they wanted to do research, and we had 80% saying they wanted to do medicine. And then in 2017, again, we're almost up at 600. 4%, again, it's a similar, 4% research, 70% medicine. So, as I said, I was really worried about these students who were not going to get into medicine. I was worried because they'd upped their enrolments. We had huge numbers of students, most of whom we wanted to do medicine. Over 50%. We actually know only about 30% of our students actually get into graduate medicine. So we need to be looking after those 70% that don't get in. What are they going to do? So, okay, so I've run some surveys across the main biomedical science programs at the 4 main universities in Melbourne. So we've got Monash, Deakin, RMIT and Melbourne. And we asked them a lot of questions about what influenced your decision to study biomedical science. So that should say program at the top, not course. So you can see of great influence was that the biomedical science program is a pathway into graduate medicine across all of those 4 university biomedical degree programs. What was their top career priority? Again, at least 70% of the students across all 4 of these biomedical science programs said that graduate medicine was their top career priority. This one was slightly embarrassing because essentially these Bachelor of Biomedical Science degree programs were set up in the last 10 to 15 years, and the UK have done the same thing. They were set up to train and educate students to be biomedical researchers, and they still are. We have not changed the way we teach these programs. So we said to them, was this a factor in helping you to decide to take this program, that they wanted to do research? Now, Monash University came out as significantly different to all of the other universities. So this was not of any great influence in their decision in coming to Monash. And that just feeds into that whole idea that we've got students coming to Monash because they want to do graduate medicine, because it's easier to get in at my university. Okay, so back in 2014, I ran some focus groups with final year students to discuss employability skills. What was their understanding of employability skills? What sort of careers did they have in mind? The key thing was they had no idea what employability skills were. They were very, very focused on content, discipline-focused content, okay? And they still are to a large extent. The other issue was, at that point in time, they had no careers development through their entire 3-year program, except in the final capstone, what I call subject you would call course, okay? They had a little bit of careers development in that course, but they said that is too late. And the other problem was the only careers advice they were getting was about research and about medicine. And they said, you've got to go beyond research and medicine, and career planning needs to start really early in our program. Don't leave it till the end. That's way too late. It's beyond the time when people are recruiting graduates for firms, for example. And they certainly had not been engaging with any developmental activities to build their employability skills. Most of them didn't even know where the careers service was. Do we have a careers service, they said. Okay, so this was alarming. The other thing is we looked at what graduate employers, and this is something that Erica talked about as well, what are they looking for in the graduates? So this is it's a bit old now, but it's still the most recent survey. So back in 2014, they surveyed the key employers of graduates from Australian universities. And they said to them, what are the top employability skills that you're looking for in the graduates? And these are the top 10. Communication skills, 50% said that was the top skill they were looking for. It's pleasing to see academic results are slightly lower. You know, it's not just about academic results. And Eric has shown this for the American organisations as well. Teamwork, aptitude, interpersonal skills, leadership skills, work experience, cultural fit, motivation, are they adaptable? Okay, so employers were saying we want communication skills. I also run the advisory board for my biomedical program, and the industry representatives on that board were saying, I interview your graduates, they are hopeless. They do not know how to communicate their skills. So we have no idea if they have actually developed those skills. So employers are looking for graduates who can articulate the value of their skills and have developed, and they have the ability to develop and think critically about the application of these skills once they're in the workplace. We survey our students about their confidence in careers development, and back in 2015, 60% lacked confidence in their ability to communicate their current skills and knowledge to potential employers. They said, we don't feel confident in our ability to do that. I put this up because it was really interesting looking at, we keep talking at our universities about future-proofing our students. How do we prepare them for the future workforce? And this organisation, the Foundation for Young Australians, they've just released this study. They looked at 12 billion work hours, it's 9 billion work hours for 12 million Australian workers over a 10-year period, and looked at the changes in the types of things they were doing in the workplace. So they could predict, what are we going to see in the future? And we all hear about globalisation, the digital economy, about being flexible and adaptable in the workplace. But their key things were, we need to be preparing our students to spend more time learning on the job, to be able to solve problems, be critical thinkers. I was very pleased to see science and maths there. They need to be using more science and maths skills, so STEM comes in there. Communication and interpersonal skills. They'll be spending less time, they need to be entrepreneurial because there'll be less time being managed, okay? They're going to be much more independent and much more autonomous in the future. And there'll be less teaching of workers and training of workers. Much of that will go online. Okay, so the program. What were the aims of our professional development program? The aims were to challenge these unhelpful beliefs that we have linear career pathways, that it's all medicine and nothing else is in there. To help the students to explore the careers options that were out there, for them to be able to assess their capabilities and their developmental needs, and for them to build a digital record of their experiences, skills and knowledge and capabilities that will enable them to demonstrate their employability, particularly to potential employers or future employers. Okay, so I didn't show the initial slide. I love that one there. But I couldn't have put this program together without the team that I had. So I engaged with my careers support service at the university. I was really lucky that they had a dedicated biomedical careers advisor. She wasn't a biomedical scientist, but she got assigned to our program. And she's been since made redundant, but we won't talk about that. Okay, so when I decided that, given the huge numbers of students, careers anxiety, we had to have a professional development program. So I went out there and looked at the literature, engaged the careers, because I knew nothing about careers development, and read all the literature in order to decide how I was going to structure the program. So the theoretical basis, chaos theory. So we wanted to introduce the students to the chaotic nature of careers to enable them to embrace uncertainty. They can't all assume that they're all going to go out there and do medicine and go off and have a clinical career. Okay? And then we wanted the students to be able to personally engage proactively in their own careers development and employability, using things that are within their own control, using what we call the social constructivist constraints. So essentially, things that are within their immediate control. Don't focus on what the graduate outcomes are. Focus on the here and now in their first, second, third year of their degree program and what they can control now. Okay, and we also used, I don't know if anyone's heard about this, it's the Dacre, Poole and Sewell, they're British careers educators. It's called the Career Edge Model of Employability. You can see we have the key to the door of employability, and within that key we don't need to have, but it's good to have careers development learning, work experience, discipline degree knowledge, transferable skills, specific discipline skills, and emotional intelligence. together with reflection and evaluation of these components, which will increase their self-efficacy, their self-confidence and their self-esteem. And taken together, all of these components will increase their employability. So I should stress that when we talk about employability, we don't mean they actually get a job. Employability is essentially defined as the capacity to gain employment. So we're preparing them for the capacity to gain employment. Okay, so the other thing I did, Bridgestock, is fantastic. She has a lot of papers looking at graduate attributes and employability skills development in the higher education sector. She's also Australian. This is a quote from her. So for universities to fully engage with the graduate employability agenda, the careful integration of careers management and skills development into courses from first year is necessary with ongoing input and feedback from faculty, industry, career staff and students. So it should be an integrated effort. So bearing in mind all the theory and all the background, I structured the program so it was in curriculum. It started in semester 1 of the Biomedical Science program and was developed across the whole course. It was developed and delivered by both career staff and physiology biomedical faculty or academics with feedback from the program or the course advisory board. It involved presentations from recent graduates from the Biomedical Science program, and the students love that. Young recent graduates have gone out there and done interesting things, and it was assessed. So there's lots of really good evidence from literature that students will engage more actively in their careers development if it is assessed. Okay, so now this should say program. Sorry guys, again there are cultural differences here, and I hope you can read it. So this is the structure of our Bachelor of Biomedical Science. We have core, what you would call courses. We call units, other people call subjects. We've got year 1, semester 1, year 1, semester 2, etc., etc. And you see they're all coded BMS 1011, for biomed. So what did we do? We developed 5 modules that were embedded into 5 of the core biomedical science units across the 3 years. And I'm really lucky because I'm a biomedical program convener and I have very good relationships with the course or unit conveners. And I also convene BMS 2031, which is one of the physiology subjects. So each of the modules had a lecture, has an assessment that's only worth 2%. We felt that was enough to be worth the students doing and small enough for them not to be really annoyed that they were having their professional development assessed. And as I said, we have guest speakers who are recent graduates. So this is our summary of the program that we developed for the students because they were having problems working out how it all fitted together. So you can see you've got the units and the modules and the main topics of the modules. And assessment involves contribution to an electronic portfolio. Okay, so each assessment gets put into this electronic portfolio, and the platform we've used is Mahara, which is a free New Zealand-based e-portfolio platform, which is really good, everyone, if you'd like to try out an e-portfolio platform. So what I thought I'd do is just go through the modules and show you some examples. One thing we discovered, having run this program for 2 years, is the students were confused. Because what was happening is we were running each of the modules in their different courses and they weren't kind of linking it all in together. So we set up a separate online learning system when we use Moodle, which is a cheaper non-paying version of Blackboard. We set up our own online learning site for their professional development, which is open to them at all times through their 3 years of their program. And it's got all the modules in there, and it's got all other resources like videos of, so we take videos of all the guest speakers and we put them up there for them to look at. And this has really, really helped because, as I said, they were having problems linking the different modules in together. Okay, so the first module, which is usually run in about week 2 of their university experience, so they're fresh, is just to get them to think about careers options, which some of them initially think, why am I thinking about careers? I've just started uni, I know I'm doing medicine, and we introduce them to the employability skills. So what are these employability skills? And we try to get them to think about how they're developing the employability skills, or will be developing as they progress through their program. So for the first assessment, we get them to create an e-portfolio profile. And half of the assessment is just getting them used to the new platform and the software. They seem to, I don't understand, they're meant to be the digitally savvy generation, but many of them struggle with new software. So that's part of the assessment. They need to log into the portfolio Mahara. They need to log in 3 careers-related experiences. And we talk about what a career-related experience is. And this is an example here. So we say you can use setting up a LinkedIn account as a career-related experience. And many of them do that and ask me to be their LinkedIn, what's it called again, LinkedIn? Connections, sorry. Okay. Many of my students actually tutor high school students. Yeah. So what we ask them to do is they have to say what the experience is, provide an image, so some visual representation of the image, and within 200 words explain why they think that's a career-related experience. And there's actually, down the bottom, not shown there, there's a timeline. So they need to be able to achieve this experience before the next module, which is in semester 2. So they need to map out the timeline, and we give them a template for that. Okay, so that's module 1. Okay, so they come to semester 2, and it's all about reflecting on their career-related experience and networking. So we introduce them to this notion that networking is really important. Okay, so we're in module 2, which is actually in another physiology course, BMS 1052. And we get them to produce a visual representation of their personal and professional network. And I absolutely love this one. This student is so keen on medicine that they have Francine, my tutoring student's mother, who's a GP secretary. That's a general practitioner. And then Uncle Max, who works in medical machinery. They have Peter, the radiologist. They have a netball coach who works as a nurse. So she's looked around all her personal, professional networks to find anyone who is vaguely related to medicine, but it's fantastic. And they really, really love doing this. So networking, okay, so for the third module, so they're now at the beginning of year 2 and they're taking my physiology unit, we get them to find jobs. And some of them think they actually have to find a job and get interviewed. And I have to say, no, we just want you to go out there and look at advertised jobs, okay? So they have to source jobs. They look at the job ads and they have to pull out the skills or criteria that are identified in the advertisement. So again, we get a lot of students finding medical jobs, but we encourage them to think broadly about the sorts of jobs and to be ambitious. Some of them want to be heads of cardiology units. But that's fine. I think it's really important for them to know what is required to be a head of cardiology, what sort of skills are required. So this one was to be a medical officer. I think it was with the Army, this one. So what we do is we get them to pull out the skills from the job ads and then to identify, do they have these skills? Do they need to develop these skills? Can they provide evidence of the skills? So this one here was the ability to cope with stressful situations, and I love this one. This student was a rock climber. So she relates stress to her rock climbing experiences and says, yeah, as a rock climber, I have to make quick, fast decisions so I don't fall off the rock face. And then the ability to work as a team. She has related that back to her teamwork within her course. Just to show you, we didn't just get medical jobs. I really love looking at the job ads, actually. It's really, I kind of find it enlightening to know there's so many jobs out there, particularly in science. So we had a nanotechnology applied scientist job there, and in the wine industry, a bioscientist. So we're looking for biomed grads to work in the wine industry. What did these guys do? This one had communication skills. They'd been in a school debating team. They'd been acting in plays. This one working in a fast-paced environment. They'd worked in the food industry, in fast food, and we're used to the fast-paced environment. Okay, so the next thing we did, so we're now in semester 2 of their second year. We were now asking them to communicate their skills using what we call the STAR technique. Using the criteria they chose from the jobs in the previous semester. So the STAR technique is apparently, I haven't had an interview for many, many years, but apparently it is commonly used by people recruiting in employment. They will expect the people they're interviewing to be using this STAR technique to provide evidence of skills. So what it is you start with your situation. So what's the background or specific experience you have, the task, what needed to be done to address the problem, what strategies you considered in this context, what actions did you take, what did you actually do, did you encounter any difficulties? And that's really important in telling the story. And then what was the outcome? So again, this student, the job was in a hematology lab as a medical laboratory technician. And the skill was the ability to multitask and successfully work as part of a team. So this student used the STAR technique to talk about what she had done in tutoring work with her younger sister and her friends. So she was tutoring a group of young girls. She came across issues that they were are not of the same ability, so she had to develop some strategies, some quizzes, some fun tasks in order to engage the students of differing abilities. So she's used the STAR technique to provide evidence of multitasking. And then, again, we've got a medical doctor in Myanmar to be flexible and open. This student had taken a course where we send them into secondary schools and they have to develop and deliver lessons to, it's primary schools, sorry. So, do you call them primary schools? Yeah. Prep to 6, yeah. So they had to develop lessons and she talked about a situation where there was conflict between the group of students who were developing the lesson and how did they resolve that conflict. So the skill was to be flexible and open. Down the bottom there is some feedback from a focus group. They loved the STAR technique and they said to us, okay, we love it. Why didn't we get this in first year? You've left it till the end of second year. We could have done with this in first year. So they loved the STAR technique. They said it was extremely useful. Okay, the final module is about goal setting and resilience. We think resilience is important. How do they cope when they don't get into medicine? So we asked them to use the SMART method that I'll talk about to set 2 goals. They had to have a career-related goal that could be achieved within the next 5 years. And then we wanted them to think about themselves. So we wanted a short-term personal goal that will enhance their health and well-being that they needed to be able to achieve during that semester. So a short-term personal goal. Okay, so the SMART method is a really good way of making your goals achievable, essentially. It stops them being vague and you know, you have those New Year's resolutions that are kind of vague and you don't pin yourself down because you haven't actually described what the goal is, what the timeline for the goal is. So this SMART technique makes them set out milestones. How are you going to achieve this goal? What is the time scale? What are the actions you're going to take in order to achieve this goal? So with SMART goal setting, you need to have specific descriptors of the goal. You need to make them measurable. How are you going to measure that you actually achieve the goal? What are you going to do? You know, is there some sort of level of attainment here? It needs to be attainable, okay? So it needs to be achievable. So don't be unrealistic about your goals. Don't put graduate medicine as a goal if you know your average is only sitting at 40%. You're not going to get in. Okay, relevant. Make sure the goal is relevant to you. Do you actually want to achieve this goal? And then T, the time-bound one, this is the one I think is most important. You need to have a timeline that's realistic and has a little bit of flexibility in there because everything may not go to plan. So we got them to use this SMART technique, to set the 2 goals, and then to use the SMART technique to provide further detail on how they were going to achieve these goals. So just to show you some of the goals, the first one up there, they've said they want to complete an honours degree related to regenerative medicine. So they were going to go on beyond their 3-year Bachelor of Biomedical Science and do an honours research year. This was actually an international student. Their personal goal was to be friends with more people in their cohort to socialise outside class. So we find we have about 10% internationals, which is actually really low. Our business and economics program has 80% international students. And there are real issues with cultural differences in socialisation and engagement. The second student down here, they want to be working, this was very specific actually, I will be working in the public health field in Mexico within 5 years, okay? They were studying Spanish at university, that was part of it. And the personal goal was to be able to improve their fitness and run a 15K run by the semester break. And look, I won't go through. So oh, this is a different one. So this student, I was very excited. This student said I'm sorry, you can't read it. I'll read it out to you. They have said their goal is within 5 years to finish their biomedical science degree and to enrol in the Masters in Secondary Education at the University of Melbourne. And then in the measurable, they've gone through the process they need to go to. They need to go through what we call the Vtec enrolment process. They need to sit a certain literacy test in order to be eligible to apply for the Masters in Secondary Teaching. How are they going to attain it? They talk about being engaged with their course. They're going to attend lectures. They're going to write them up in order to complete their degree program and do well. So that's not all of it. So this one was the student who said they wanted to work in public health in Mexico within 5 years. So they wanted to combine their passion for public health with their love of Spanish. So they were doing Spanish as they were going through their degree program as well. Again, they were aiming towards the Masters. We have a Masters in Public Health, which again is very hard to get into and very competitive, but not as bad as the medical program. And what it forces the students to do, it forces them to sort of, and this is a good time point to do this because they're at the end of their 3-year degree, almost. They've got another semester to go. But they can map out, okay, if beyond my degree I'm going to do the Masters in Public Health, where is that going to then lead on to? And how am I going to achieve this? So I guess they're quite practical measures. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we assess. So those are the assessments that I showed you. Those are examples of the assessments for each of the modules. I was worried that they wouldn't do the assessments because they were only worth 2%, but they are quite, given, to get into graduate medicine at home, it's completely marks driven. You need to get what we call an 81% average across your courses just to get an interview. And then that won't guarantee you get in because fortunately at home it's not just based on marks. They also have an interview which includes ethical dilemmas and things like that, and they want to make sure they're people. Okay, so assessment submission rates are slightly lower than what we get for other biomedical assessments, but I'm happy with the submission rates. They're usually above 90%. I surveyed the students in the first year that did not submit the assessment for one of the modules to find out why were they not submitting the assessment. Most of them was, oh, I didn't know I had an assessment, which is really their problem. Or they had looked at what assessments they had and decided that 2% did not weigh up against their 10% scientific report. Therefore, they were not going to do the 2%. But again, we've run focus groups, and on the whole, they think the assessment's fine. The assessment gave me the motivation to do it. It made me sit down and actually think about it. This last comment was unusual. I only got 2 negative comments in the entire 3 years I've been surveying them about this. Having an assessment is unnecessary. This is simply to help our careers and shouldn't be related to our mark in the subject. So that student was particularly negative about the fact that 2% of their course grade was related to their professional development. Okay, now I'm really excited because the module 3, where they go out and find advertised jobs, the breakdown of the sorts of jobs they found was quite different to their career aspirations that they tell us they want to do. So remember, 70% say they want to do medicine, but only 17% actually found jobs in the clinical sector when we asked them to source jobs. I was very excited, 30% found jobs in the science area, so as researchers, including laboratory technicians, research assistants, lab heads. About 23% found jobs in the allied health area, 15% in administration or management, 7%, still too low, in secondary teaching. We have double degree students, so we have a double degree with law, engineering, commerce. So the other jobs they found were as lawyers, engineers, journalists, editors, design, IT and accounting, and that actually reflects the double degree programs we have. So I actually mapped out, so in the dark blue, I think it's an orange, isn't it? In dark orange, these are their career intentions according to their entry surveys. So you can see most of them, 75% say they want to do medicine, and only a lowly 10% say they want to do research, okay, at the most. And then in the light colour, I have the jobs they selected for their professional development program. So I was really pleased to see, as I mentioned on the previous slide, a nice wide range of the types of jobs, not all of them in the clinical area. So for me, that's saying, okay, they've engaged with enhancing their careers options out there. They're now more aware of what's out there for them to find. Okay, so we do a whole lot of surveys. So this is showing, in blue, they hadn't done any of the modules of the program. So they were in year one, they'd started, they hadn't done anything. In orange, they'd done 2 of the modules of the program. And in grey, they had done 4 of the modules of the program. And these are career statements. So I'm aware of the careers that are available to me after I complete my degree. I know how to develop experience and skills in preparation for my career. I'm confident about the ability to communicate my skills to potential employers, and I'm confident about my ability to independently manage my career. And I was very excited to see, I'd be very upset if it didn't turn out this way, it's actually the percentage of students who agree and strongly agree there. So you can see it goes up significantly in year 3, which you would expect to see anyway. And I've actually done this across the other Melbourne University biomedical science degree programs, and they don't see this because they don't have a professional development program. So for me, I haven't told them that yet though. Okay. So the other thing that was really exciting is we tracked the number of biomedical students that were going over to the University Careers Service for, on the left-hand side, it's one-on-one consultations with a careers educator or careers advisor, you'd probably call them here. And then on the right-hand side is how many of the biomedical students went to group sessions. So they run group sessions on how to write a CV, how to interview and things like that. So you can see since we've introduced the program in 2015, we've seen a huge increase in one-on-one sessions with the careers advisor. So it's gone from 22 to 111. And again, we've seen a huge increase in students engaging with workshops and group-based sessions run by the careers service. So that's gone from 239 to 1527. And again, down in blue, down the bottom, that's some focus group feedback. I now know what services are available to me to support me in pursuing a career after completing my degree or finding a job. It was good to know there's a team I can talk to and discuss career-related issues and problems that may arise. Now, I'm afraid there's not a silver lining to this. In October last year, the university, with no consultation with faculty, made half our career service redundant, okay? And this is what happened. So I lost Sandy, who was my biomedical careers advisor. She got made redundant. She was given a week to leave. She's got a fabulous job now down at Melbourne Uni. So this is what happened. So since we've lost the career staff, the students are no longer going over for one-on-one consultations. They're not going to the workshops. So I need to somehow show this to my university heads and say, look, this is what happens when you get rid of career support staff. Okay, right. Did the students like the program? Yes, they did. We do lots of surveys. 62% of student comments said the best thing about the program was that it enhanced their careers awareness. And there's lots of comments. It's comforting to know it's okay to be unsure of what I want to do in the future. And I think this is a really important thing because in my program, so many of them are so sure they want to do medicine. It's the others we need to worry about. And in fact, I was talking about this with Cindy. I've been doing wellbeing surveys. So we have this depression, anxiety, stress survey that we run. And I thought that was going to tell me that my students were depressed and anxious and stressed because they wanted to do medicine and they were so stressed about getting into medicine. But what that survey showed us is that the students that don't want to do medicine are much more likely to be severely depressed and severely anxious. And in focus group discussions, they said to us, we feel outnumbered by all of these students that want to do medicine. And we feel there's something wrong with us because we don't want to do medicine, you know. So I think it's really important for them to know, well, one, that you don't actually have to know what you want to do. I always tell my students, I'm still trying to work out what I want to do with my life, you know, and I've just turned 50. So let's see how we go from here. The program's vital. It provides a wider context of why we're studying. It makes you think longer term. It gives you a perspective on what we can do. It opens our eyes to the reality. For me, a lot of people think that med's really important. It's the only pathway. But I feel the further studies into other pathways, you can do much more. It provided insight into a variety of careers pathways and demonstrated the use of a biomedical degree in various areas that were not limited to medicine and research. I was really pleased to see that. What have I got? They loved the recent graduates coming in to talk. They really, really loved that. And we even bring in students that are doing medicine. So we do acknowledge that, 30% will end up in medicine. So we bring in students who are studying graduate medicine. So they really love hearing about what they're doing. And they can relate to them because they're recent graduates and they've been through the same degree program. Okay? We bring in course program advisors, so people from the Masters in Pharmacy, Masters in Nursing Practice, Masters in Embryology, so people go off into IVF from there. So this student loved the presentation from the people from the Masters in Clinical Embryology, and they ended up enrolling into the Masters in Clinical Embryology. And we've actually seen significant increases in biomedical student enrolments once they've graduated in our master's programs. So nursing practice, radiography, reproduction, pharmacy, but not in secondary teaching. They just don't want to do secondary teaching. Okay, I'm almost done, everyone. So what did they think about the e-portfolios and using Mahara? They thought it was great because they could just dip into the e-portfolio and track how they were progressing as they develop their skills through their degree program. They like the fact that it could record their past experiences and their goals. But we did have some issues. This is why I say I don't understand. They're meant to be good with technology, but many of them seem to struggle with the Mahara platform. We had to provide detailed instructions and videos on how to load their submissions onto Mahara. They wanted the Mahara to be integrated into their online learning system, which is Moodle. And it now is apparently, but we haven't quite got around to this, but in theory we can merge their professional development Mahara with their Moodle for their professional development. And I think I'm just about done here. Okay, how could the program be improved? They wanted work placements, volunteering opportunities, and I'm really excited because we've got a new work integrated learning unit, which is industry placements, which is starting next semester. And that's quoted for 50 biomedical science students. They wanted better integration of the program into the biomedical curriculum. Is there some way of relating what they're doing in their professional development program to what they're studying? And this comes back to they want their, and when I survey them in focus groups, they want their faculty, their academics, well, they'd like us to know about careers and they want us to be interested in what careers they're going to pursue and not just interested in physiology. Okay, so this is our work integrated learning unit. I'm very excited about it. And I was so pleased because I was worried that none of the students would want to do it, but we had a huge number of applicants and it's selected by interview. So that, and we've set it up so you only need a credit average. So that's a 60% average because we wanted to cater to what we call the average students, the students that are less likely to be getting into graduate medicine. Okay, so essentially the students value of the program, they call it their PDP, their professional development program. Oh, the PDP, they say. They really love the guest speakers. They wanted more practical experiences, but I was kind of constrained. We only have one lecture and one assessment. We are looking at moving it from the lecture setting to an active learning workshop, but then we've now got 700 students, so I don't really relish the thought of running 10 active learning workshops. And they wanted better integration of the portfolio into their Moodle system. So thanks, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge my Education Academy. We have a Monash Education Academy, which is absolutely fantastic and supports teaching development and initiatives at Monash University. Thank you.
That was very great. So thank you for coming a long ways to share this with us. Two quick questions. So you said one lecture per class on whatever the topic is. And so it's related to the assessment, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question I have, what are the classes that you're actually implementing this in? Is it introduction to physiology, exercise physiology,
Oh,
immunology?
okay. So, well, two of them are physiology, what you would call courses, I call subjects, and the other's one's bioinformatics. I guess it's not important what the actual course is. For me, it's about finding one of the courses that will accept my professional, and that's the real struggle. And this is where I see other colleagues at other universities not being able to have or put a program into their program, into their course, because they cannot find room in the curriculum, or they can't get academics to provide room in the curriculum. And I guess what I've done is we've been giving feedback to the faculty about how the program's been going and what the students think about the program, to the course advisory board, to course management, or program management, sorry. Getting very positive feedback from them. So the program is well supported also by school management as well. So they give me funds to pay for teaching associates to mark the assessments, for example. So I think you need to just spread the good word about the effectiveness of the program and why it is required, because it can be a bit of an ongoing battle. And I'm lucky because I have biomedical students who are all progressing the same subjects, and you would hopefully have the same in your physiology major. So they are progressing through in a certain order. Yeah.
So this was fantastic. I'm very excited to see this, and the whole idea of early and often, sort of the Chicago voting thing. But it's really important that we share the value of other careers very early. So they need to be aware that you've done that, of all the options, and value those as much as going into medicine. I've had way too many students come to me and say, I can't tell my colleagues that I don't want to go to medicine because they'll think less of me if I want to go into PT or OT and say, please don't think less of me because. And I just think, have you not listened to all of the things we've been trying to tell you? But so how do we get that change in the value of a career amongst our students that are very
That's
rigorous,
really tough.
very challenging, they're aggressive, they're proactive. How do we make that be an okay choice to not do medicine? I think that's a challenge, I think, for all of us.
I guess, all you can do is bring in people who have that career, who can talk about how fulfilling it is. In fact, we have one of our clinicians come and talk about the good, bad and ugly of medicine. He gives them the warts and all. You think medicine's great? Oof, get real. And he just gives them the, vomit. You could deal with people who are anxious and stressed and angry all the time. And we bring in the students studying graduate medicine. You say, you reckon studying biomedical science is hard? You try graduate medicine. It's even more competitive. So I guess we try and sell the negative side of medicine. It's not the be-all and end-all, you're not going to have a Porsche and live in a mansion, yeah. But that is tough because we get students whose parents I get students in my office in tears because they've been told they have to study biomedical science because they're going to do medicine and they don't want to. And that's a really tough one because I can't ring their parents and say, hey, Celia's in here and she doesn't want to do biomedicine. I don't know. I find that really hard. Yeah.
So you mentioned you use a lot of surveys, obviously. How are you administering those, or what's your medium for the surveys? Is it through Moodle or?
Yeah, so a lot of the surveys that I've referred to today, I link them to the assessments for the professional development program. So in order to submit their assessment, they had to go through the survey link. It did say this is not compulsory and voluntary, but we got a really high response rate from that. So it's called conditional, it's a conditional entry or something. So they have to open the survey in order to submit their assessment. So yeah, on the whole, online assessments often linked to, online surveys often linked to their assessments in Moodle.
So kind of following up on Cindy's question, I was curious as to how and when you survey on their well-being, because I'm thinking particularly about that cohort of students and how early on they all think they're going into medicine, but is that because of this fear that other jobs are not acceptable? Is that increasing their depression and their well-being? Like all of that's related to it. And do you think that having these conversations with them so early on is going to much increase that well-being in that state because they're seeing that change in phrasing that it's not that you didn't get in, it's that you chose to see, you became more aware of the value of these other positions. Like, I'm more curious about that well-being process and how you found that.
It's interesting you talk about the timing, because we've done all these wellbeing surveys, but we haven't actually done any beyond the point at which they've been rejected. Do you see what I mean? So I guess we're not seeing the dip because they still have that motivation for that and that goal alive, and it hasn't been knocked back. And we really want to do that, but it's really hard to survey them after they've had their acceptance or rejection from medicine. But interestingly, when I set up this program, the professional development program, I had a university grant to look at whether it impacted on their well-being. And the theory was that, because you're engaging them in professional development and they're anxious about their careers, that their well-being would improve. Saw no change. So I did it over 3 years of the professional development program, ran what we call the depression, anxiety, stress survey, saw absolutely no change. But for me, that says we're not doing enough. One lecture and one assessment each semester is not enough to impact on their well-being.
That's terrific. Really great presentation. Thank you, Julia. My question is, the assessments that the students are doing, how much feedback are they getting on those? Because, and you said, I don't know who's doing the feedback. I think they were
the TAs are doing it, yes.
So are they trained to give the feedback? And then, that seems like quite costly as well. So what's the feedback like, and what's the dollar figure on that?
The actual marking costs are really low because it doesn't take them long to, there are 700 of them, mind you, but 70 students per marker. And it shouldn't take them more than 5 minutes per assessment. But we do have to train them. So I did get the careers advisor in, and we would talk through what our expectations of each of the assessments were. And they don't all get full marks. We try and aim for them, we try hard that they all get 2%, but some of them fail to put in 2 jobs. They'll only put in 1, so they'll only get 1 mark out of 2. But we do give them feedback. And we go for the positive. That's a really interesting career-related experience. It must have helped you, engage with your enjoyment of teaching or whatever. So we do. So in Mahara, in the ePortfolio platform, there is a place where the markers can give feedback to the students. But I do slightly worry about the fact that our grad students, are not careers advisors. They probably know less than we know, but I can't mark 700 assessments.
Julia, when you think about growth opportunity for your program, and you were talking about the idea that you wish you could do more because that would decrease anxiety and depression associated with these topics for students. Do you think that a full-blown course, a required course, would be a better setup? At what point would you implement it? Do you have the capacity to do that at your university? What are your thoughts?
Good question, Davina. Isn't that what you're doing? That would be fantastic if you could have a whole course. But again, it comes back to this question, when are they taking your course? Are they doing it at the beginning? Because, it'd be great if they could do it at the beginning and then have another component of that course later on, because I think it's something that needs to be revisited. But having a course that's dedicated to professional development, you can spend much more time with them, and I think that would have a much better impact on their well-being than my little one lecture and assessment. No, there is no room in my curriculum. They're not going to give me a course. Sorry, Cindy?
But a tease at the beginning, short that it would be, but certainly.
Well, they do it in week 2.
So get it going early and then come back with the
And I normally,
course,
for the first semester students, we bring in a cardiac technologist and we bring in a lung function specialist, because a growing area for physiology and biomedical graduates is in the hospital setting as clinical technologists. And apparently they are crying out for good graduates, biomedical physiology graduates, to go and work in. I was very pleased to see you had perfusionists there, so that's another clinical technology job.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, so we do in an introductory course incorporate a lot of those things, but I find that, the first year students sometimes aren't always ready for some of it, or they maybe haven't struggled yet in a course that might be something that pushes them in one direction or the other. So I really actually like how it's integrated throughout the curriculum. Obviously, the challenge of is one lecture enough is definitely there, but I think that maybe prepping them up front, but having it throughout the curriculum, to me, is a really appealing part of what you've done, especially also by embedding it in the courses. I feel like that might skirt around. We have issues when we get transfer students in, because how do you put them on the track of, do they take that intro class, and if they're not declaring the major until late, do you make them go back and take it? So if it was within the curriculum, they're going through that curriculum progression no matter what, and it seems like that kind of avoids that logistical issue of students coming in at sort of an off time.
So I guess other people go extracurricular, 0 credit courses or units, as I call them. I just don't think it works because we've shown the students, because our career service ran some 0 credit, the students just don't engage with it. So I'm saying I think it's so important. I want them to engage with it. It's got to be in curriculum. It's got to be assessed. It needs to be face-to-face, because the other thing is you could go, okay, we're just going to do an online course, but I don't think that would work either. You could make videos and things, but it's not the same as someone standing there running a session. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. For me personally as a student, and for a lot of the students that I worked with, my friends or the ones that I went on to teach, we couldn't, if it was extracurricular, we couldn't make time for it. If it was a separate course that wasn't always required by our program, ooh, mood lighting. But if it was a separate course that wasn't necessarily required by our program or by the major, then it was oftentimes very difficult to integrate into our curricula and into our major design or however the undergraduate experience looked. So that's oftentimes really difficult to do. So I love how this is integrated within your coursework. Something that I think could also be more beneficial too, like an opportunity for growth, is where you might at the beginning of each lecture highlight the various professional skills that some of your students might be working on or engaged with or using throughout that lecture in particular. And then you just note before you engage one of those skills or practice one of those skills, all right, now it's time to practice our communication skills. First in groups and then together as a class. Just something simple like that to make students aware of your teaching process. I think that would be really helpful.
That's an area we're really working on, but in the rest of the curriculum, how do we articulate to students their skills development? That when they come and do a lab class, they're not just... in fact, some of our students don't seem to think they're developing technical skills even in labs, which slightly worries me. They think the labs are there just to emphasise and reiterate the concepts they've learned about in lectures and tutorials, and that slightly worried me. But we need to do a better job as faculty to articulate skills to development, because our students are still heavily focused on content. And part of the issue is we only assess content. I mean, do we really assess skills? No, we don't. We try, but it can be hard, to assess creativity and problem solving and But that side of it really, I think that needs to be developed in the rest of the curriculum. That's what I would like to see. I should stress, although it's in curriculum and it's course-wide, the program, it's really important to get the buy-in of all of the faculty in the program, and to keep selling the program to them and telling them the benefits of the program. And also what we discovered is you need to make it clear to the students, that's why we developed our green arrow with the portfolio, how the program works and when are they going to see the components of the program. Because they got confused about that. And to tell the students, and I give feedback to the students, so I show them, hey, last year's students, these are the jobs they chose. So I show them the results of the wellbeing surveys and the career intention surveys. So we feed them back to the students and say, this is what they told us last year. Let's see what you have to say this year. Yeah.
Something I see that could be a potential complication is, let's say my department, pursues this path somewhat, developing a program. I see the career services at our university really getting feeling like their toes might get stepped on or that we're invading on their territory. So that's kind of something that I see as a potential hurdle to many universities because they do have career services, even though they're not providing this type of...
But I think the career services at the universities, and this is what we used to have, should be working together with faculty and they should be working with the programs. That's how they're going to be most effective. And the literature says that as well. So they shouldn't be out there somewhere else on campus completely separate from where the students are studying and learning.
But I mean, a lot of my first and second year students that I'm advising, I'm getting in my office and I'm talking about the career services, department or program, and they don't even know what it is or where it is.
Well, there you go. That's because they're not involved in your program. But then I've got a problem now that I can't use my career service anymore. And I got very cross about that. Anyway.
Well, we have the issue that we don't have control or access to the students sometimes early in their academic career. So putting this kind of development into our program would be a little problematic just because we just don't have the students. They're taking courses that are prerequisites for our courses. They're not there. However, some of the things that we have done, number one, we do have good career services people, and our institute is recently, our college has recently invested more in career services people dedicated to technical careers like physiology, so that helps a lot. We've also taken videos of current students and past students, put them online so that they can get that feedback from either peers or people that they aspire to be. And we've used our undergraduate club as a access point to invite the career services people to come and talk to our undergraduate club so that they can put a face to this service and then get one-on-one or at least a small group opportunity to ask questions about what's going to happen when I go to the career services office. And so hopefully we get some of it. Now, the thing that I'd like that you have that we don't have is that assessment as to how much students are taking advantage of it. But we do see some energy in the room when they get to meet with their career services advisors.
So my strategy with my diminishing career service is that, who's going to be the careers educator now? It's the faculty. So now we're working hard, we're surveying faculty about what are the barriers to you being engaged with your students' careers development. So you can ask me next year when I've completed that survey. I think there are significant barriers.